Hello there. Today we'll be looking over 5 SCPs the Foundation couldn't function without. And I don't just mean any old Thaumiel class anomalies. Without some of these SCPs, the world would have ended countless times by now. In fact, most of these articles are restricted to Overseer level clearance, so consider yourself lucky you even get to know they exist. First off is an SCP many have heard of, but its beneficial effects might be less well known. SCP-3000 is essentially an absolutely gigantic moray eel. And when I say gigantic, I mean country-sized. Its exact length has been deemed impossible to determine for obvious reasons, but has been estimated at 600 to 900 kilometers, with the body being as large as 10 meters in diameter. For reference, this thing is longer than Germany. Or, if you were driving at 100 kilometers per hour, it would take 8 to 12 hours to get from its head to its tail. That's big. Thankfully, SCP-3000 has been observed to be largely sedentary, only moving in response to stimuli or during feeding. It is also carnivorous, but it's believed that its biology is anomalous, meaning it doesn't need to eat to live, which is also quite good, because a thing this size would otherwise need to eat trillions of calories every day just to survive. That, and having this thing moving around to hunt would probably cause enough tsunamis to destroy every coastal city on Earth. Now, this anomaly's size isn't the only thing anomalous about it. It's also a very high-level cognitohazard, meaning direct observation of it can cause severe mental alterations, including head pain, paranoia, general fear and panic, and memory loss or alteration. So how exactly does a country-sized snake that makes people go crazy help the Foundation? Well, whenever SCP-3000 eats, it secretes a substance referred to as Y909 as a byproduct of its digestive process. And Y909 has been shown to have similar effects to SCP-3000 itself. It can alter your mind. After some testing, the Foundation has found that it is a critical component in making amnestics, or memory-erasing drugs, more effective. As such, it has become a key ingredient for a number of different types of amnestics used by the Foundation. After including this new ingredient, testing showed that these modified amnestics lasted longer in storage, reduced side effects, and increased memory clearance effectiveness, as well as suggestibility in test subjects, along with fewer intrusive memories in the long term. And just in case you're new here, the Foundation really likes amnestics. In fact, it's hard to find any trace or mention of the Foundation that doesn't somehow include amnestics. When an anomaly is discovered by non-Foundation staff, you wipe their memories and take it. Containment breach, make everyone forget about it. Cognitohazard, it can't hurt you if you don't remember it exists. And so on. So until a synthetic version of this compound is discovered, you know the Foundation will be sending divers down to feed SCP-3000 some D-Class personnel on the regular in order to get that sweet, sweet nectar. And if you think about it, there's a decent chance you've been administered amnestics that use some of this Germany-sized eel's digestive gunk. Isn't that neat? Our next SCP is possibly one of the first SCPs ever discovered, SCP-006, the Fountain of Youth. Physically, this SCP is a small spring located 60 kilometers west of Astrakhan in Russia. Its anomalous property is one you might expect given its name. It provides an effect simply referred to as health. In other words, it can halt or potentially even reverse the effects of aging, improve our ability to repair damaged tissue, and provide a, quote, frightening increase in the effectiveness of the human immune system. During testing on animals, bacteria and viruses were shown to be destroyed immediately upon ingestion. Now, while this SCP does have containment procedures, they pretty much entirely come down to ways to hide this anomaly's existence from everyone but the O5 Council. In fact, it's generally presented as being extremely toxic, requiring staff to be under heavy supervision, wear hazmat suits, have O5 approval to even approach it, and should anyone come into contact with water from SCP-006, they are to be confined, studied, and then incinerated. Needless to say, this is of course not the case for members of the O5 Council, who tend to live well beyond a normal human lifespan while maintaining a youthful appearance. I wonder how that happens. There's not much more to say about this one. From the very start, the Foundation has had access to an anomaly that could save literally countless lives, cure all diseases, and significantly increase our lifespans. But, of course, they've kept it for themselves. So if ever you needed another reason to resent the Foundation, there you go. SCP-179, on the contrary, is one that all of humanity gets to reap the benefits of, albeit indirectly. This anomaly takes the form of a humanoid entity floating in space approximately 40,000 kilometers from Earth. Several notable characteristics have been observed about its physicality, including it having the anatomy of a human female between 20 and 40 years of age, its body and hair being composed of a reflective matte black material, and a number of golden markings or tattoos along its body. So yeah, she do be kind of a baddie, not gonna lie. It has also been observed that SCP-179 is able to communicate through radio and laser communications interference, and is shown to be fluent in French, with 2 such messages from it saying,
Je m'appelle Sawai-Susor. Je suis la vigie. J'observe. Je vois souvent. J'avertis souvent. Presque toujours, lorsque je le dois. Ainsi, la vie se prolonge.
And when referring to the sun, stated,
Il est mon frère, Sawel. Il me réchauffe. Il est feu bienveillant et lumière aimante. Il me caresse de ses arcs et de sa voix et me renouvelle. Il est la véritable source de toute lumière. Il est votre source.
So what exactly is this Sister of the Sun on the lookout for? Well, Sawel-Susor, if that's how it's pronounced, has been observed to occasionally point outwards into space, which the Foundation has ascertained was her way of warning us of some incoming threat, be it an anomalous entity, an alien invasion, or simply a meteorite. This has reportedly happened hundreds of times since its discovery, with the Foundation having been able to save countless lives, and perhaps even prevent the end of the world entirely due to this early warning system. I like this one. It's nice to think that there's someone out there looking out for all of us. And it helps that she's kind of a baddie. Anyways, SCP-914 is primarily used for testing purposes. This anomaly is a large, incredibly complex clockwork device composed of millions of moving parts made from a variety of materials. While its inner workings are still unknown, it's been confirmed that it contains no electronic assemblies or any form of power. The machine is composed of 3 main parts: an input booth, a selection panel, and an output booth. The selection booth has 5 settings: rough, coarse, 1-to-1, fine, and very fine. The machine is activated using a key-like mechanism that is turned in order to wind the mainspring. What's anomalous about this machine is what exactly happens when it's used. After an object is placed in the intake booth, a door slides shut and a bell sounds. After a setting is selected and the key is wound, the machinery will then refine the object in the booth, taking it out of the input booth and returning the result in the output booth. But what exactly do these settings mean? Well, let's let some of the testing logs clear this up. Following the scientific method, one researcher decided to test every setting using 1 kilogram of steel to see what the different settings would return. Setting rough returned a pile of steel chunks of various sizes. 1-to-1 returned 1 kilogram of steel screws. Fine returned 1 kilogram of steel carpet tacks, and very fine returned a single gram of an unknown supermetal that was extremely resistant to heat, unbreakable, and a near-perfect conductor of electricity. The only setting not tested here was the coarse setting, but in a follow-up test, putting in a wristwatch returned that same wristwatch completely disassembled. This was also tested on organic matter with interesting results. Inputting a D-class subject on the 1-to-1 setting resulted in an output of, well, a similar D-class subject, although slightly taller, slightly lighter, and Hispanic rather than Caucasian. He was also very confused and agitated, understandably so. Inputting a D-class subject on the very fine setting, however, had much more catastrophic results, outputting some sort of anomalous being that ended up killing 8 guards and 2 researchers before dissolving into blue ash. Weird. Now, while testing on biological matter has since been discontinued, testing with 914 has otherwise been widely encouraged in order to accumulate data in an attempt to find interesting or useful interactions. This article contains literal thousands of test logs, showing just how important this machine is as an infinite source of research data. But beyond just data, it can of course also result in some very useful outcomes. For example, a portable diesel generator set to the fine setting turned into a portable nuclear power generator. Or a foam replica of a fictional gun from the game Gears of War, along with some other materials on the fine setting, turned into a functional assault rifle embedded with a chainsaw bayonet. So, this SCP is pretty awesome, as you can tell. It largely seems to serve as a time waster for bored Foundation researchers, but nonetheless proves to be an invaluable testing tool with infinite research and output potential. Now, our last anomaly, SCP-2000, might very well be the most important SCP there is, and this is made apparent by the containment procedures alone. First off, SCP-2000 is a location, and entry to it is disguised as a park ranger station in Yellowstone National Park. By most measures, it operates similar to a normal SCP facility, but with significantly more strict security measures. Number one is, of course, access to even information concerning this SCP being locked behind Level 4 clearance, which is a rather high-level clearance usually reserved to site directors, security directors, or mobile task force commanders. Second is the amnestics policy, stating that staff assigned to SCP-2000 are not permitted to leave the site during their assignment, and will have their memories erased and replaced with false implanted memories once their assignment has ended. And finally, there are more esoteric defenses: Scranton reality anchors, Zyank Anastako's constant temporal sinks, and one pseudo-Riemannian manifold. Yeah, I know, all that just sounds like a bunch of made-up sci-fi word salad, but to simplify it significantly, reality anchors stabilize reality, and Zyank Anastako's constant temporal sinks stabilize time, meaning the site is protected from anomalies that can affect space or time. A pseudo-Riemannian manifold is a space where distance and time are mixed together, resulted in warped spacetime that can make entry or attack extremely difficult or even impossible due to mind-bending geometry and broken causality. For example, if you fired a gun through this manifold, the impact of the bullet would require a cause after the effect, meaning it would have to impact before you even pulled the trigger. Since this violates causality, nothing would happen. So now that we've cemented just how important this thing is, what is SCP-2000? Well, to put it simply, it's a reset button. This anomaly is a facility that was designed to reconstruct human civilization in the event of an end-of-the-world scenario, where humanity either is extinct or near extinction. Now, while information concerning the construction of this installation has been lost, resulting in its classification as an anomaly, it has been ascertained that this site has been used at least twice. The way this reset is accomplished is using 500,000 bright Zardian hominid replicators, or BZHRs, which are essentially machines capable of creating humans of any age and genetic makeup, along with implanted memories and skills. Now, of course, the end of the world tends to come with a lot of destruction and the breakdown of critical infrastructure. You can't just plop down 8 billion humans back on the planet and call it a day. So, beyond creating enough humans to populate the Earth, SCP-2000 also comes with a procedure and a massive underground storage of construction materials, as well as replicas of famous works and even backups of the internet and other important technology. For 25 to 50 years after this procedure is initiated, newly created humans are made aware of where they came from and the cause of the end of the world, and are essentially expected to all work together to rebuild society. And of course, when things are largely up and running again, amnestics are deployed en masse worldwide, meaning history can essentially resume from this point, with no one even being aware that it ever stopped. Now, this article goes on and on for some time, and with good reason. This anomaly might just be one of the most fascinating I've read about, as it places our entire history and existence into question. Any one of us could have originated from this lab hidden beneath a national park, or maybe our parents or some other distant ancestor. But before I ramble on for too long, there are two important points I'd like to cover concerning this SCP. The first is a note from a Foundation administrator, who makes some important points about the potential abuse of this anomaly.
I want this on permanent record, and I don't rightly care if you think it's an insult to your intelligence. Some things are just this important. This device is absolutely not an excuse to let down our guard or take greater risks with SCP objects or cross-test them or whatever you might have in mind. Primary containment is still our best chance at survival, otherwise there would be no reason to make the cover-up so extensive. We can only suspend God's disbelief so many times before the universe just says no. And considering what we've had to deal with in these past few decades, we may have passed that point already.
Fair point. And finally, a section that is somewhat glossed over in the main article, how this reset button is actually meant to be used during an end-of-the-world scenario. It's specified here that the reset procedure is made so it can be initiated by as few as one surviving human, which is good. However, there's a bit of a caveat. In the event of an end-of-the-world scenario, site security will be lowered in order to allow any Foundation employee to perform the reset, not just level 4 staff working there. But, as we read earlier, anyone who previously worked on SCP-2000 has had their memories wiped, meaning there would be no personnel outside of the site to even be aware that this reset button exists. Furthermore, security only fully turns off after 20 years, allowing any non-anomalous human to enter and perform the reset. So essentially, If the Foundation falls, our only chance at starting over is surviving 20 years in an anomalous apocalypse, hoping some lucky SOB stumbles into a top-secret site in Yellowstone National Park, and that SOB figures out what the site is and how to turn it on, all without succumbing to whatever it is that took out site personnel in the first place. To me, this is a perfect example of my main criticism against the Foundation. Here we have a perfect solution, a literal Uno reverse card against the apocalypse, in a world of unkillable monsters, blood gods, and super viruses, and yet we're forced to trust that only the Foundation is responsible enough to ensure it's used correctly. We're forced to trust that the Foundation, our literal front lines against the threats that would cause these end-of-the-world scenarios, will survive the conflict, and we won't. We are forced to trust that should we all die tomorrow, the only thing preventing the end of the human race as we know it is a corporate machine that runs on deceit and manipulation and would hide our very salvation from us even during the end of the world. So, with that in mind, ask yourself, is ignorance safer than truth? Thanks for joining us. We'll have more anomalies ready for you next week. Stay safe.